Luke Gazdic did a great job breaking down the game last night. He joins us this morning from Sportsnet, the Mid-Soft Podcast. Gaz, what's up, buddy? What happened last night, man?
Oh, man, devastating. So I feel like it just happened so fast. It's interesting, when we're breaking down the games and we're watching them there at the studio, it was good for a while, but as soon as the goals start pouring in, like we're watching all the angles and, kind of seeing how every goal went in. And before I knew it, I was like, wait, what happened? What's going on? Like it felt like it got out of hand real fast, and disappointing finish for sure, guys.
Definitely disappointing finish. When you look at that game, like, what's the most concerning thing, do you think, Luke, coming out of that game for the Oilers? Skinner didn't play well. They had to lead and let it slide. Connor McDavid didn't have a shot on goal. Draisaitl appeared to be banged up, or whatever they want to say, equipment. He definitely is not okay. What's the most concerning thing for you coming out of that?
I think, you hit a couple good ones there. I think it's just the way they played once they got the lead. To me, it was a team that just looked like they were going to coast into the finish. It looked like a team that took the foot off the gas, decided to lay back. And this was a Vancouver team that I think early really, really looked like they were almost over-respecting the Oilers. They had them right where they wanted them. And I think the most concerning thing is how they just sat back. And the Oilers are best when they're drivers, man, when they're driving the play and pushing the play. And they just stopped doing that. They became real nonchalant, kind of lackadaisical, hesitant, and it just wasn't a good brand of hockey.
Luke, walk us through the process of shutting down a Connor McDavid and holding him shotless for the first time in his playoff career. Because, you look at that Kings series as well, and we talk, the Kings and 1-3-1 and all this and shutting things down. But, last night, no shots for Connor McDavid. How do we get, again, to kind of your summary of how did we get here? How did we get here with that?
You know what? I got to give some credit to the Canucks. They did a pretty fairly good job of staying with him. I thought he roamed pretty free early, and kind of I hit on that point earlier was I think they were really over-respecting him, especially in the first period. They weren't closing. They weren't, taking away his time and space. But as the game went on, it's almost like they got more confident in checking him. And there were a number of players in that team that did a really good job. It wasn't Connor's best effort. I think he'll tell you that himself. I really do hope he takes that game and that loss personally, which we've seen in the past, his response to losing. But I got to give some credit to Van, man. They've done this, I want to say all year, they check top players pretty well. And this is something that maybe the Oil didn't expect, but whether it was Miller, Pettersson, they did a good job on him.
I've spent a lot of the year defending Stuart Skinner quite a bit. It's very easy to just target a goalie after a game, but he just didn't look like he settled in really at any point last night. What were the red flags in Skinner's game, and how much can we take solace maybe the fact here for Oilers fans in this city that he has been a bounce back guy so far this season as well?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm not going to look into this one too hard. It is one game. We saw with the LA series last round where he did have a bit of a blip and came back strong. But third period, I'll look at those 3 goals. JT's, that's a really tough kind of chop tip, we call it. That was more of a defensive zone breakdown. That's a tough one to stop, but I'd still love to see a stop there. Zadorov's point shots have to be blocked and fronted. I don't care if he's stepping into 100-mile-an-hour one-timer like that. Like, you got to get guys in lanes. Like, that cannot be getting all the way through to skins. So I don't want to put that one completely on him. The Garland one, that's just one I want. Like, I want him to make a big save in that position. Spets rarely went 5-hole there. He usually walked around him. That was the old Jason Spezza move. But listen, he doesn't seem too bothered about it. I listened to his post game.
Yeah, he's pretty calm and cool, isn't he?
He really is. And I saw that in the LA series. And I'll tell you what, not everyone loves that attitude and the way he kind of carries himself after it, where he's very carefree. But I don't mind it. I don't mind it. So I hope I'm not going to look too much into this one. But to be honest, guys, you're not going to win too many games letting in 5 goals, no matter how they go in.
Luke, what do you do now? Game 2, and we were talking about no shots for McDavid, but zeros across the board for Mattias Janmark, jumping up and getting time on that top line. But what do you look at in terms of lineup and switcheroos, whether it be in the forward group or blue line?
So we had this. I mean, I had this in my notes before we were going into the pregame show on Sportsnet about lineups, but time permits, and we did not get to we didn't get to my segment, but I would have loved to see Dylan Holloway on that line last night. I don't think Mattias was the right guy to be there. I think he's a great player that you can plug in at different spots, but I would ultimately leave him as a depth player. I would have just moved Foegele up to the third. Holloway goes up to the top line, and your fourth line is Ryan Janmark, and then you can put Brownie or Sammy in there if you want. I don't know why Knobs is hesitant of it. I talked to you guys about this probably 2 weeks ago after Dylan had his nice showing. Like, give him a chance. He's really the only guy, one of the only guys that can skate with Connor. I thought he was kind of a man on an island last night too. I understand Clouder can fly around, but I thought Dylan had some good jump. And I just don't love that third line as a whole. And I think it's his time to at least give him a game and see how he does up there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how he could have any less of an impact than Janmark had. McDavid didn't have a shot on goal. Janmark had zeros across the board. Foegele and McLeod. Foegele and McLeod are together quite a bit usually, right? So I was a little surprised that it was Janmark that got the call for game 1, considering Foegele spent a lot of the season in your top 6 and scored 20 goals for you. Did you think Foegele had like a bad first round and that's why he doesn't get bumped up there? I know the production really wasn't there, but we weren't coming in after games against the Kings being like, what's going on with Foegele? Like, he was Foegele. That's what he was.
Yeah, I think that's a player that you're always kind of constantly trying to figure out, where do I put him, just because he can fit in a couple different roles. Plays some okay hockey at times. I like him as a player, but I think it's just kind of like, what is he? Where are we gonna slot him in where we can generate the most out of him? And I don't think he can drive a line. He has to be with a driver. And so I think that's the conundrum that Knobs is kind of trying to figure out right now.
What do you think's going on with Leon Draisaitl? I know you guys are running the clip a lot last night trying to figure out. They said cramping and equipment issues. There was a video of him that you guys had on that game, like kind of pointing to his back. And do you think if he is a little banged up, do you think they put him up with McDavid and kind of just shelter him a little bit? I know we've had some people suggest that. Play Nuge as your second line center and go from there. Do you think that's a possibility?
100%. And yeah, I know we went like full CSI investigation into it yesterday. After a while, even I was like, okay, I think we can move on now. Like we're really not sure what's going on, but clearly something happened. We went back on the tape a bunch. He kind of ran into a referee in the first, and then there was that small clip that we showed with Myers, maybe back, maybe cramping, but yeah, maybe you load up your top line and go for it that way. It's always a possibility. It's something that Chris doesn't love to do, though, for some reason or another. It's an interesting idea, to be honest, I didn't put too much stock or thinking into, just because I think with the way Vancouver's set up, with how Lindholm played last night and that line, that call him a third line if you want, but Joshua, Lindholm, Garland, I think you need 3 down the middle. Like I don't know if you can stack up.
I think you want to leave him there, right? Like you want to leave him on the line where he's at. I just wonder if he gets legitimately banged up.
And that third line, as you say, Luke, for Vancouver, that could pose the problem when
that
talking
could
about
be the issue in the whole flipping.
That line is going to be a problem. They're going to have to figure this out. And going into the series, Bieksa talked about it on the show and to me before the game, where he was like, this is kind of the X factor. That line is not a third line. Like Dakota Joshua, I always say that he is kind of like the NHL player that I wish I was, but I would think I was a little tougher. Just can skate like the wind, he had a goal and 2 assists and 8 hits last night. And between Lindholm going 14-4 in the faceoff circle and Garland scoring the winner, that line is a problem. And I think everyone looks to Besser. They look to Miller. You're looking for Pettersson, but someone's got to have an answer to play against that line as well.
Yeah, best line on the ice last night for sure in the hockey game was that Lindholm line for the Vancouver Canucks. All right. How about Boston, Florida last night? And we were using it as a bit of an example today for Oilers fans who were like, this series is over. Boston had to be very happy with game 1. But the Florida Panthers, we know they're an outstanding team, Luke, and they came back firing last night.
146 hits last night credited in that game. Florida had 76 of them. So we're seeing a bit of a trend now, right? Florida loses game 1 after having a lot of time off. Dallas goes up 3-0 on a Colorado team that had a significant amount of time off. And in my opinion, last night, Vancouver has less time off than Edmonton. Edmonton's been off for just over a week, and it takes Vancouver about 2 periods to wake up. So I'm not putting too much stock into these first, game 1s of these series. But it is something. I mean, Florida's brand of hockey is something that I love to hate. It is very fun to watch. They are super aggressive, relentless on the forecheck, and the physicality is something that is honestly admirable to me. So if you go back and look, they were first in the NHL in hits this season, first in hits per game. The 3 games this year with the most combined hits in them, Florida was in every single one, and there was almost 150 last night. They just show up to the fight with their fists up, ready to go. Like, it is no prisoner style hockey. They shoot every puck. They finish every check. And it looks like they took that game 1 personally, that loss. They chased Jeremy Swayman too. Like, I live here in Toronto, and they could not get anything by him here in 7 games. So this Florida Panthers team is the real deal. This is a different brand of hockey, and I don't know. This series is going to start to tilt in their direction, I feel like.
Certainly not going to say that game 2 for Dallas is a must win, but damn, it's got to be close. We know they came back against Vegas. Colorado isn't Vegas. They blew that lead in game 1. You did mention, Dallas and Colorado having a bad start and managing to pull themselves back into that hockey game and win it. But how badly do the Stars simply got to have this one tonight? Because I just don't know how they beat Colorado 4 out of 5 after that.
Yeah, I just think they don't want to go down 2 like they did last time. That was a battle. They are certainly under the gun here. Colorado is also a different breed. My goodness, are they fast. Like, when you watch games, they just push the pace. And if you let the foot off the gas for a second, they're doing exactly what they did to Dallas, and that's ripping off 3 goals before you know what's going on. But I think this is a huge one for Dallas. Jake Ottinger's got to be the guy. This is a Dallas team that can score, but I don't think they want to go to track meet every night. But Colorado, man, they just keep getting better and better. And I don't know what's going to happen here, because these teams are just going to beat the heck out of each other again, and they must be banged up already. Like, I bet you there are already some injuries going on in that Dallas room after 7 games with Vegas, but they certainly don't want to go down 2 and have to go into the Mile High in Denver and try to sneak out both of those ones as well.
Gaz, how good is it? How much fun are you having being on the panel here? I mean, I know you did round 1, but now you, BX, Canucks, so this has got to be pretty good for you right now. You got to be having fun with this.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And yeah, I think you're like one of the first ones that's asked me that, just genuinely, how much fun are you having? It is, it's a treat to go to. I mean, I say work. I try not to call it work. I call it the studio.
Yeah. None of this is work, bro. Like, none of this is work.
I mean, having 2 coffees and a half-hour lunch here.
Yeah. I mean, it is work, but to me, it's a fun gig, and a lot of preparation and effort goes into it for me, watching hockey and taking notes and being prepped for the show. But the funnest part is once we get the pregame show done, because that's some prepared stuff. We had a segment last night on some face faceoffs. Once the game starts going, that's the funnest part. When we're just sitting in the green room with the game on and everyone's just kind of mixing it up and talking about different views of the game and telling stories kind of thing. I mean, I'm looking over and Ron McLean sitting there and I'm just picking his brain and I'm just along for the ride, man. So it's pretty cool. I'm back. I'm on every night. So I'm on tonight for New York, Carolina. I'm pretty much every night going forward. And I get to wear a nice tailored suit every time I'm on there. So I was dying too. I'll tell you guys this. I didn't tell anyone else, but I walked in and, you know, I'm going through this conundrum in my mind, right, of not trying to be too much of an Oiler homer on TV. Like, I obviously cheer for one team, but I try to call it like it is. And I show up and our head stylist has like a blue suit with white shirt and orange tie set out for me yesterday. And I'm just like, do I wear this game one and really like show my loyalty, show my true colors, pardon the pun. But no, it's really fun, man. I'm glad you asked that because I'm having a blast and looking forward to continuing it here.
Excellent, man. Keep up the good work. We'll chat next week.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. That is Luke Gazdic. Yeah, can you imagine him rolling up blue suit, orange
socks? That's good enough. I mean, we don't need to start at the socks.
That's good. Gazdic brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. Check them out at proamsports.ca and gear up for game day. I'm telling you, let's just say this. Did you buy a new jersey before the game yesterday? No. And they lost, so you got to switch it up.